Hi, this is Jeff Richards, Columbus, Ohio. You're listening to Barbecue Central.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike your match, and... Oh, should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is a show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling, originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening live fire fun and frivolity show. If you want to jump in on the show tonight via phone call or email, I welcome you to do one, both, or neither. Just lay out and listen to the show's entertainment and education value as it rolls. But here's how you do it.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Everything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening coming up in about 13 minutes from now. It is the second Tuesday of the month of a new year, and 2021 is rapidly coming to a close. We get our first visit of Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. We have some breaking news that we'll be discussing here. Somewhat off the top, we will also be getting an update that we might get now monthly updates from. As you would recall, a couple months ago, Meathead unveiled here on the show that he was getting into the rub and barbecue sauce business. And I said, why would you get into the rub and barbecue sauce business? 10 years ago, I could see it, but there are a lot of barbecue rubs. There are a lot of barbecue sauces, the likes you've never seen, even on grocery shelves. Before, there was just a very small portion of an aisle. Mine is where the bread is for some reason. But now the whole opposite side of the aisle of bread is nothing but barbecue and grilling stuff and marinades and all that. So we'll see what Meathead has to report as far as updates are concerned. At last count, I believe he was doing 2 or 3 rubs and perhaps a couple different sauces. So we'll see what stayed the same, what's changed, and how that whole process is going along. We'll also talk about couch gating and some other things as well. So if you have a question for Meathead and you would like to jump in over the phone, you're more than welcome to do that. 216-220-0966. Or you can send us an email or social media request, and we'll go ahead and answer those as well. And that's Meathead in the first hour. Then we'll move into the second hour. And we have a first-time guest, the newest sponsor of the show. I mentioned them last week for the first time. It's a company called Vortic Watches, or Vortic Watch Company. And one of the co-founders, R.T. Custer, will be joining me. So while the show is usually about barbecue and grilling, sometimes we will diverge. And one of my other favorite pastimes, besides barbecue and grilling, is watches. And I wouldn't say I have any type of real extensive collection. I don't have Rolexes and JLCs by the boatloads or anything like this, but I can appreciate a good watch. And I have started to become a little bit more of a student of the watch game and learning about all the manufacturers and the conglomerates that are owning a bunch of the more well-known, let's call it mid-level to high-end / luxury watch companies. And then there's a whole other thing that we're going to learn about with RT. And I don't know if a lot of people are aware, or maybe if you are aware, you're well advanced in years, but the United States was quite a watch manufacturer back in the day, except they weren't watches that lived on your wrist like this. They were ones that went into your vest pocket, or they called pocket watches back then. So we'll learn a little bit about the history of American watches. We'll talk about how RT got into his particular watchmaking business, where they are pretty much preserving pieces of American history and transforming them from how they would have normally lived 80, 90, 100 years ago on a pocket watch type setting into a wristwatch, what they manufacture there in Colorado and what they source, whole bunch of good stuff. Plenty of weeds that I could go into that I'm going to try and reserve so I don't bore everybody to death. But typically, if it's interesting to me, that's all I care about and I'll talk about. But I'm going to try and temper the first round of interviews here so at least we get a good high-level education of what's going on from a watch perspective. And then maybe if you're interested, you check out the website and go from there. Vortic Watches RT Custer at 10:14. And then we will close out the show this evening with something I have never done on the show, something I had never even thought of having to do on the show. It has to do with a Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Fame and the banning of a current Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer. In fact, as we look back on all of the inductees since 2018, this would be a member from the inaugural class of 2018 when we originally rolled it out. And it's something that I've thought long and hard about and something I am convicted about. So I'm going to share that with you and my reasoning behind it. And then, of course, I will always ask for your feedback through email over the course of the week. Or I guess you could react to it instantly if you're watching here live tonight. But certainly welcome your reaction as always. So that's how the show's setting up this evening. Meathead coming up here shortly. RT Custer from Vortic Watches. And then a banning of a Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer. Don't forget, you can follow me socially. Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snappy Chat at BBQ Central Show. Facebook and Twitter /BBQ Central Show. And a video simulcast as well on YouTube /RD Rempe. So I have a new lineup announcement that will be starting the third Tuesday of the month. So that's actually going to be next week. Although the lineup that I have compiled for the third Tuesday of the month going through the first quarter of the year, potentially through the rest of the year as a trial, is going to be a little different. So normal third Tuesday of the month regular guest Steven Reichlin remains in his usual 9:14 spot. But the 10:14 spot, I'm going to try something a little different. We're going to shake it up a little bit. And I'm doing what is called quarterly guests. And I have locked in the last one today. I spent the better part of a week and a half to 2 weeks trying to get all this stuff locked in together. So I had something to unveil to you on a Tuesday once I had everything all set up, and that happened over the weekend. Actually, the last one just confirmed about 4 or 5 hours ago. So this is what it's going to look like, aside from next week, because the third Tuesday was already upon us by the time everything got locked down, and I had already filled the first third Tuesday of a month. And quarters, it's 3 months, and every quarter, 4 quarters here in the calendar year. So it's not going to be this month, but starting in April, then again in July, then again in October. You know her from owning the business Hardcore Carnivore. Jess Pryles will be a recurring quarterly guest on the show. Then February, and then again in May, and then again in August, and then again in November. You've seen her on TV a bunch of times, whether she's a contestant or a judge, and you know her mostly through her dynamic social media presence of Hey Grill Hey. Susie Bullock will also be a recurring quarterly guest, and perhaps her husband Todd, who I have an affinity for. And then March and June and September and December, closing out 2021. I'm saying December now, but believe me, it's going to be here before you know it, because as I said before, 2021 is rapidly coming to a close. And this is somebody that I have tried to get quarterly for like the last 2 years, and it has totally been my fault for not booking. Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly has agreed to a regular quarterly visit as well. So changing up that third Tuesday of the month at 10:14, we now have 3 quarterly guests that will be recurring. Jess Pryles, Susie Bullock, and Daniel Vaughn. So looking forward to all of that fun stuff. And some really good, unique, and different opinions all the way through that list of 3. So Looking forward to starting that off in February with Susie. Then we'll go Daniel, and then it'll be full on with Jess Pryl starting in April. Listener feedback from Steve that says, sorry, Greg, I'm a little behind, but heard your show the other night through podcast with the embedded correspondence about your favorite shows of 2020. Mine is the episode on October 20th, the origin story of Stephen Reichland. I enjoyed most of your origin stories, really like Stephen's and Sam's and Meathead's and Malcolm's. Rusty was very interesting too. I didn't really care for Doug or Derek's. And I know Doug has been with you for a long time, but there's something about him that just rubs me the wrong way. Really? One was an episode where you all were talking about competitions and he kept referring to the general public as buzzards, or maybe it was vultures, something like that. You and Rusty, who also competes, said something to him about that. Enough ranting. Saw your stats on Instagram, and I will say I am not looking for a mask. I listen to a boatload of barbecue podcasts, and yours by far is the best. Thank you, Steve, for writing it. Meathead is in the green room, and he is ready to launch when we come back. I'll talk to you quickly about the gang over at Big Poppa Smokers, Sterling Ball, and all those fine folks over there on the West Coast. Sterling has curated everything on that website himself. He's had input. He's had a hand in selecting or recommending. He's got those great seasonings and rubs like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, Sweet Money, and regular. I just said Sweet Money. Regular Money. Also, aside from Sweet Money. Hallelujah, Desert Gold, Double Secret Steak Rub, all ones that I use on a regular basis. If you're looking to improve the flavor of your competition barbecue, you know you can't go wrong with the stuff that Big Poppa Smokers is providing. Aside from that, he's the owner of Granny's Barbecue Sauce as well. So if you're looking for a new go-to sauce that will please everyone, why not give Granny's a try? Also, he's selling cookers. That's right. Some of the best pellet cookers and charcoal cookers out there on the market today. How about that Mac 2-Star General Pellet Grill? Big Poppa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. Not a fan of pellet smokers? Try the old Hickory Ace BP. Why not? It's the only charcoal cooker that Big Poppa trusts on his competition trailer. If you're not sure of what grill you need, how about this? Pick up the phone. A lot of people don't do that anymore. But pick up the phone and call and ask questions. They're there to answer your questions. 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or shop their website at bigpoppasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. And tell them the Barbecue Central Show sent you. Maybe they'll send you an extra free gift. Who knows? All right, we have Meathead locked and loaded. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, this portion of the show being brought to you by the BBQ Guru, creators of automatic pit temperature control technology, sellers of ceramic cookers with built-in power draft fans, and accessories to make your barbecue and grilling life easier. Visit bbqguru.com for more information or call them at 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. I gotta get here. What'd I do with it? Oh, here it is. You know what happens when it's the second Tuesday of the month? We get a little taster here of one of the most dynamic and cool theme songs that are sweeping the nation. Of course, that is coming from Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. Hey, Meathead.
Hello, Greg, and hello, Centralites. Good to see you again, huh? How's them Browns doing?
The Browns are in the playoffs. I don't know if anybody knew that or not, but we're quite a dynamic football team, and I lost quite a hefty full packer Wagyu brisket bet to a writer over at The Athletic earlier in the year when I had the Browns marked for no more than 5 wins this season. And
Really?
He quickly took that bet, and then at win number 6, I called my pal Kevin Green over at the butcher shop and shelled out $100+ for that Wagyu brisket, which Andy proceeded to cook pretty much directly and sang all of its praises. So I think, the good news is we have a new customer for the butcher shop. The bad news is that one did hit the pocketbook. And I guess shame on me for not buying in like every Browns fan has ever done for years and years since 99 of decades of just tragic football. And I thought, hey, I can pass, what do they say? Past performance is not indicative of future results. Well, when you eat poop sandwiches, Meathead, since 1999, a man can only eat so much poop. So I said, I thought 5 was pretty fair. I mean, it's not like 0 or 1 like we have pulled off very recently. 5 was pretty okay. I would have been all right with that, but no. And so a brisket it cost me, but now we are into the second round of the playoffs to play the Chiefs.
You're deep in the playoffs.
Yes, and I think I was listening to some pretty knowledgeable national football people, and they are making somewhat of a case for the Browns having a legitimate shot at taking down the Chiefs next weekend.
No.
I'm just telling you what they said. The last 7 games, they were wins. Some of them were against some pretty bad teams. 2-point wins, 4-point wins, nothing more than a 6 or 7-point win. And the Browns don't have a problem putting points on the board, but it's the keeping the points off the board that has been an Achilles heel. But geez, COVID has been really decimating the Browns like a lot of other teams. So who knows what team we have even showing up on the roster week to week. It's ever changing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I got a confession to make. I'm a closeted Browns fan. When I was in high school,
all coming out now.
Yeah, I was in high school. Brian Sipe used to write a weekly column in the newspaper. Brian Sipe was a quarterback, the Cardiac Kids.
Red Right 88.
And he wrote a weekly column, which was sort of technical about football. And I was a high school football player. And I found it fascinating. And, of course, even before that, Jim Brown was just very special to watch. And I'm old enough to have watched him. I lived in Florida until my mid-20s, and then I moved to Chicago. And so I'm now a hopeless Bears fan.
Yeah.
Bears have taken the place of the Browns.
Well, I mean, you were in the wild card game at least. The lack of quarterback isn't that great. By the way, Meathead, I don't want you to sell yourself short on your football prowess. Dare I say, if you weren't familiar, this is Paper Gator we're talking to right here.
Oh, God.
Paper
Gator.
That
story.
That's right. Yes. It was you had a huge stat line.
Very short version is I was the sports editor of the University of Florida campus paper, the Florida Alligator, and I somehow talked the head coach to letting me dress for spring training and report on how the Gators were. And they gave me the locker next to Jack Youngblood, who's now in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah.
Both college and professional. He was 6'7", I was 5'9", 5'8", and he used to rest his elbow on my helmet. And I got some good stories out of that, wrote some good articles, including the very last play of the game. I had been practicing as safety the whole game. They put me in at linebacker and ran right at me. I dove for the center's ankles just to protect myself, and the running back tripped over me for a 1-yard loss. So my record as a linebacker in the swamp is 1 tackle for a 1-yard loss.
Look at that guy. Where's that professional contract? We're still waiting for that. Meathead, let me ask you something, because I just read this coming into the show here. It wasn't the piece that you had sent me about some breaking Weber news that we'll cover here in just a second, and your thoughts on that. But and forgive me if I'm saying this gentleman's name wrong, but is it Phil Vettel? Phil Vettel retires from the Chicago Tribune after 41 years of being the dining critic. Vettel, yes. Vettel. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, so he retires just recently, and I was wondering if you had any interaction with him and how much of a presence back in the day that kind of a position held.
He's been the restaurant critic for our paper for many, many years. Was anonymous for many, many years. A couple of years ago, it became impossible for him to remain anonymous. So he, like some other restaurant critics, allowed his identity to be seen. But we just as traumatic as we just lost Blair Kamen, who was the Pulitzer Prize-winning architecture critic at the Chicago Tribune. This was once a great paper. You know, I wrote for them back in the 80s, I think so. I did 3-year gig as their wine critic. And, you know, the paper was a real broadsheet. It was much bigger than it is today. It was one of the great American papers, along with the New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, San Francisco Chronicle, Cleveland Plain Dealer. And, you know, so many of them have gone downhill. There's a few that are still thriving. The New York Times is still doing remarkably well. But you know, it's just really hard for these papers to maintain quality people and pay them what they should pay them. So the restaurant critic, who's been there for many years, and the architecture critic, both stepping down. Just another nibble at the foundation of the Fifth Estate, the credible media, the people, the reporters, the journalists who know how to research and gather facts and report them properly.
Meathead from AmazingRibs.com joining us here on the show. So you had sent me a link moments before we jumped on the air, and it was breaking news, and the headline reads, Weber buys Smart Oven Company, June. I've never heard of June. June will continue to develop new ovens and accessories, but I'm anxious to hear why Weber would have acquired a smart oven company and a startup.
June is the company that Weber partnered with to build the software for their SmokeFire. The SmokeFire is Weber's first pellet smoker. It came out about a year ago with a great deal of controversy, and you and I have discussed it. A major feature of it was an app that Weber had built as really cutting edge. And unfortunately, when they introduced the machine, the app wasn't quite ready, and it's been slowly upgrading. And Weber has gone from a foundry, if you will, an equipment manufacturer,
hardware,
to being a software company. And so they partnered with this company, June. I think they're in San Francisco. And June had expertise in app development and particularly in predictive analogs and such for cooking. And they were working on this oven. There's several of these new combi ovens coming on the market, and they're going to be very interesting. These the new combi ovens, there are right now they're countertop ovens, but they'll eventually become built-in. But they have convection oven, regular heating. They have cameras built in so that they can look at the color of the meat, and they can, you know, watch the color of your bark. They can sense temperature in and around, and they have all manner of timers and probes. You can insert probes. Predictive technology. You can look at it and it'll say your roast will be done at 5:34. That sort of thing. And many of them, the combi oven is also, they control humidity. And barbecue people know something about this, but not enough. And that is the humidity inside an oven. And a barbecue pit or a grill is just an oven with a lousy thermostat. But humidity inside that oven can really control a lot of things about the heating properties of the food, as well as the moisture content of the food. Anova, the sous vide company, they make the Anova sous vide device. They have a new one that's pretty far along, and it's coming on the market. I think it's already on the market at anova.com. You can check them out. I think we're going to see more of these. And June is working on one. I don't know if they've delivered it yet, but their software is the software that's inside the app for Weber. And I think Weber just decided, if we're going to roll the dice on app-driven cookers, we ought to own the software, and we ought to own the company that wrote the software. I don't know if they bought them for the grill, for the oven as much as for the software, although the oven is an interesting product, and, Weber is in the cooking business, so why not have a high-tech oven that works on the same app as their smoke fire? So, once you use the app for one, you can use it for the other. It makes perfect sense, and there's some synergy there. I had a conversation with Kevin Coleman, their executive chef, the other day. He was a guest on the Pitmaster Club Happy Hour. We had a little 2-hour conversation webinar the other day on cold weather cooking, and Kevin was one of our guests. And I got on to one of my favorite topics. You've heard me mention this. We now have pellet grills, smokers, that are thermostat controlled. You set it, forget it. You can even program a sequence of temperatures and a taper off, right, and all kinds of fun stuff. And you have thermostat controls for charcoal grills now. And that's going to dovetail into the next topic we're going to take up. But why can't we have a thermostat for a gas grill?
Why?
A few years ago, my GE oven thermostat died. Went online and I found a replacement part for $30. And I installed it myself. It wasn't hard. And I'm not mechanically inclined. Why can't we put a $30 addition onto a gas grill and be able to set it for $225 and walk away? This, I think, would appeal to a lot of people, particularly people who are accustomed to indoor cooking. And outdoor cooking is so hard to so hard to do. So he kind of chuckled and said, maybe something will happen, which caught me off guard. I didn't expect to hear that. So maybe Weber's got a thermostat gas grill in the pipeline.
Do you have any speculation on why we haven't seen anything like that in a gas grill?
It's complicated. It's complicated because you've got 4 burners. In your indoor oven, you've got 1 burner. So you can set a thermostat and you've got just 1 box, and you're not dealing with 2-zone cooking. You're not trying to sear in an oven. Warm air, this is a topic that I can ramble on for hours. You can't sear in an oven. And, I hear from people with Kamados all the time. Oh, my Kamado goes up to 600 degrees. Good. That's wonderful. You can't sear for shit. You need infrared radiation to sear. You need glowing coals, flame, to sear. So there are. It's more complicated on a grill than it is an oven.
So, I mean, in essence, you would need a grill where the burners would be turning off and coming back on, just like you would in an oven, and that's just not technology that's in any of these grills at this point.
I don't think it's insurmountable. I've not really put my pen to paper and tried to design it myself because that's not something I'm skilled at. But I'm sure that the people, perhaps at June, can do this. They can develop a technique that will turn burner 1 on and burner 2 off and burner 2 to low and then to medium. And and they can keep the heat in the indirect zone and what you want it, and that.
So it
shouldn't be insurmountable.
Is this why the other product that we were going to be talking about? And to be fair, I don't know anything about it other than what I've seen, and I've been able to land an interview with the owner of this company next Tuesday at 10:35. The company's called Spark Grill, and this has a thermostatic control, as you had mentioned. However, this is not a gas grill. This is a charcoal of some type driven grill. So it's not gas, as you had mentioned, but this is kind of a step in that direction.
Yeah, Spark is a new grill. We have a full-time grill tester on our team, Max Good. He's been a guest on your show before. I mean, is that a great job description? He's got a better job than I have.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy tests grills for a living. He has one right now. And when you asked me if I could address the subject today, I knew a little bit about it because I'm the one who stumbled into it and asked Max to take a look at it. And so he's gotten one, and he's unboxed it, and he's read the manual, and he's starting to play with it. And we talked about it today, and I've got some insight into it. Let me describe what the Spark is, because it is very different, and I would say somewhat revolutionary. It's a very cool concept. It sells for about $1,000, but right now they're discounting it to $749 with some packaged things, or $849. And I think Max said that he saw it for a while during the holiday season at $599.
Wow.
So it's being discounted, available only online at the moment. It looks like a PK grill, and if you can pull it up. The PK and the Spark, they're kind of jelly bean shaped. But it's a double layer. They claim it has a layer of ceramic inside for insulation and porcelain coated. That's pretty serious stuff. This cooking surface is about 368 square inches, enough for 12 burgers, they say. Cast iron grates. It's got a little shelf on the side. But the cool thing is that it has a thermostat built in. There's a knob on the front. You have to plug it into the wall. The whole thing it depends on electricity, but it burns charcoal. And there's a knob on the front, and you turn the knob, and it ignites the charcoal. You set it for a temperature. It tells you when it hits that temperature. There's an app that comes with it. And the charcoal that it uses is not a normal charcoal. It's they call it a brick. It's about the size of my book here.
Yeah, I got a picture of it up on the web, or
you got
up on the thing
screen
right now. Yeah,
I don't know what the exact dimensions, but it's around 8.5 by 11 inches. One solid slab of charcoal with holes drilled in it. And there's an igniter underneath it. They claim it ignites quickly, but they recently sent out a notice to owners that some people are encountering problems igniting it. They're not quite sure why. They're trying to figure it out. And they recommend that in cold climate, you keep the charcoal indoors, not outdoors where it's really cold. So there's, some bugs right out of the gate. But they've got this big book size charcoal briquette, and they have 3 different types of briquettes, one for low, one for medium, one for high temperature cooking. And that seems weird to me, because you might want to start at a low temp or end at a high temp, or vice versa. I'm not quite sure. Max will know better, and you should probably book him one time in the next few weeks after he's had a chance to work with it. He usually takes about a month to really beat up on a device like this. It's clever. It's one of these things that you're going to spend $1,000, $800 on discount, and God forbid they go out of business, you can't get the charcoal anymore. I suppose you might be able to get Kingsford briquettes or something to work, but I don't know. I looked at the manual and their videos, it doesn't look like it's easy to set up in a 2-zone system. And I think any grill, and this is one of my problems with round Kamados, all grills should be able to be set up in 2 zones. This is why rectangular shapes are great. You can, like the PK, you can put all the coals on one side, none on the other side. Now you have 2 zones. You have 2 zones, you have temperature control. Cooking is all about controlling temperature. They say you can get 2-zone, but the hot zone is a circle in the center. So you're not going to put a pork butt off in a second zone. You can insert a deflector plate like you do on a Kamado to get a more even low temp cook. So it's just an interesting concept, whether it will last, whether it's going to need multiple levels of revision. I don't know. I kind of wish I had a chance to talk to him and say, please. Right now, that brick goes in the center,
yes.
Right in the center.
Right in the center.
So there's just no way to get a hot side and a not hot side. I wish I could have talked him out of that. But, it's an interesting step. We love to cook. We want to cook well. We want temperature control. This is kind of like building in the BBQ Guru to a Weber kettle or a PK grill. And it also comes with probes, by the way. It comes with, you can plug them in and the probes talk to the app with Bluetooth.
All right. Well, so we're going to be talking with the owner next week, and then we'll give Max a couple weeks to pound around on it, and then we'll have him back on, and we can talk to him about what he thinks and go from there. We're talking with Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. Meathead, we're going to take a break here real quick, and then we'll go ahead and catch up on the rub and sauce biz that you were recently into. So stand by, and we will be right back with Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. I'll talk to you quickly about Southside Market and Barbecue. Southside has been owned and operated by the same family for 3 generations, the oldest barbecue joint in Texas, offering premium Central Texas barbecue products, slow smoked over real wood, shipping, distributing, and manufacturing sausages for companies across the U.S., from food trucks to multi-chain restaurants. Southside can be on your menu, too. All meats are processed in their on-site USDA-inspected facility, a trusted partner with a focus on quality and authenticity. Wholesale options are available, shipping nationwide through FedEx or through food service distribution channels like Sysco, U.S. Foods, and Martin Foods. Co-packaging capable from research and development to package completion. They can follow your recipe or help you do something brand new. Private label opportunities are also available. When you're visiting SouthsideMarket.com and you have everything in your checkout basket, you can save 10% off your entire order each and every time when you use promo code BBQ Central. That's BBQ CENTRAL, BBQ Central, one word, lowercase, and you can save 10% off your entire order at SouthsideMarket.com each and every time. We are back with more Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion of the show being brought to you by CookinPellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets. For all your pellet-driven cookers, visit CookinPellets.com for more information or to purchase. You can also visit at Amazon.com as well. And we are rejoined once again by Meathead from AmazingRibs.com. So what was it, a month or two ago, Meathead, you had mentioned that you had decided you were partnering or sourcing through Old World Spices, which is one of the premier and renowned rub and sauce manufacturers out there in this type of niche today. And you had mentioned just kind of an introductory of getting into it, and you were working on the Memphis dust, I think, at that point. And I'm wondering, where last year, was it last year? I think it was last year. We, maybe it was the year before, I forget. Maybe it was, who the fuck knows? I was following a guy by the name of Dion Blumenrader who was trying to bring a sauce to market. I did it for the whole year, once a quarter. We started right at the beginning of the year. I think it was 2019 going into 2000, now that I think about it. And he was just, a ham and egger like me and you. And, well, more like me and not you. And he wanted to get this sauce to market. And everybody told him how great it was. And you got to get it onto the store shelves. And I contacted him and said, boy, I would really love to track this once a quarter. And we did it. And it ended up kind of flopping for him. And he had, went into some debt and didn't really recover. And he had some issues with the sauce and the recipe. And he made some sacrifices that I think he regretted and blah, blah, blah. So a long way to go to say it probably would be interesting, now that I think about it, that as you come on for your monthly visits to get updates and see if you are running into similar trials and tribulations that some of the other folks that we've had on that are in the rub and sauce business have. So where are you at right now?
Hopefully we don't follow that path. Years ago, I was told that we ought to get into the sauce and rub business. And I said, absolutely not. Why would I compete with Malcolm Reed and Mark Lambert? And every barbecue joint in America has their sauce in a bottle next to the cash register. Why would I do that? And then about 2-3 years ago, I went to Kansas City. And while I was there, I visited Old World Spices with the idea of learning more about spices. And particularly, I'm interested in their solubility. What dissolves spices and what's the best solvents and stuff. And I'm meeting with them, and the Jerry, the technical guy, shows me the lab. Oh, my God, it's incredible. Every spice and seasoning known to man. Marco Polo would just roll over in his grave if he saw this. And we tasted a few of them. And they got a team of bright young food scientists. And it blew me away, and I learned a lot. And as I'm walking out, Amy, the vice president, comes up and says, Meathead, you ought to have a line of spices and rubs and sauces. I said, nah, I'm not going into competition in that field. I'm a website. I know what I do. I do it well. I'm going to make it better. I'm not getting outside my safety zone. And she says, well, here's something to think about. You get almost 2 million people a month come to that website, and they know the brand and they know the name. If you put rubs and sauces on the shelf, they would immediately have more brand recognition than almost anything. I mean, maybe Stubbs and a few others would be better known brands, but you would outshine all these other rubs and sauces made by these barbecue teams and competitors and restaurants that nobody's ever heard of. And that just kind of stuck. And I thought, well,
you mean somebody making you feel good about yourself was going to make you do something you might not otherwise want to do, Meathead?
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe a little ego got there.
She's the vice president of sales, I would assume.
Yes. Well, with all due respect, Greg, this was 2 years ago.
Sure.
And it just sat on my desk for 2 years. And I mentioned it at a staff meeting with my team. And they all said, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
And I'm thinking, no, I can't take on any more projects. I'm already working 7-day weeks. But we yacked it up, and we thought, okay, what if we take some of like Meathead's Memphis Dust is really popular. Every time I mention it in social media, dozens of people start raving about it.
Yes, I've seen it.
All the other rubs and sauces. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe we'll try it. So I contact them and we strike a deal. And so it's been a fascinating process. We're working on 3 tracks right now: rubs, sauces, and label. You've got to design a label. The brand is pretty straightforward. It's Meatheads. And it's got my ugly face on the cover. The same picture that's on my book cover, hoping for connection there. The book has sold 250,000 copies. Now we're putting it on the website. The new website, which we'll launch in February, is now going to be named meatheadsamangingribs.com to tie it all together. Meathead the book, Meathead's rubs and spices and sauces, and now the website Meatheads, trying to get brand recognition rolled up in one. So we figured all that out. We got the label. We've settled upon a design. If we had screen sharing, I'd show the label here.
Don't you have a bottle of it?
Well, this is not the final label. This is like the label.
Yeah.
But this one makes me look like some sort of god with the halo around me.
God and maybe a little bit of Colonel Sanders.
Yeah. Well, the Colonel Sanders thing, I don't mind.
Yeah, of course. It's iconic.
I don't mind. But I don't need a halo. So we've eliminated the halo. But it looks pretty much like this. It's on a tan paper.
Yeah. Very
simple. And no halo. And the lettering is a little different than I just showed you, but we adhere to all. You've got federal laws. You got size requirements for the UPC.
Oh dear.
The Universal Product Code.
Sounds expensive.
You've got all kinds of fun stuff that you got to do to require. But we came up with a fun idea. The past year, we've produced 3 ebooks in Kindle.
Right.
And there's one on ribs,
yes,
one on chicken,
sous
and one
vide
on sous vide Q.
Right.
And they all sell for $3.99 on Kindle on Amazon. And so we thought, well, what if we gave people, the cost of an ebook is $0. I mean, it's in producing the original copy, which we've paid for by Amazon sales. What if we offer a free ebook with every purchase? Well, that gives us a competitive leg up on everybody. Buy this rub, buy this sauce, get a free ebook. So we are doing that. We've got a little QR code. Is it on this bottle here? Yeah. There's a QR code there.
Yes.
And if you scan, God,
you're right
cameras,
there. We got it. There you go.
If you scan the QR code, you'll get a free ebook. So that's kind of cool. And we've settled on 3 rubs, nothing fancy, not what are some of, hey, I love Sterling Ball and Big Poppa, and I love the clever names he's got, but we're not using money
ending.
or happy ending.
What does that mean?
They're pork rub, poultry rub, and red meat rub. That's all they have. Very simple, straightforward, descriptive. And they're good. They're based upon the rub recipes that we published on the website, with one very big difference and then another minor difference. The very big difference is anybody who follows AmazingRibs.com knows that I have made a big deal out of don't put salt in your rubs.
Right.
That salt behaves differently than all the herbs and spices, and salt can actually penetrate deep into the meat. Garlic, paprika, all that other stuff cannot. The molecule's too large. Salt is just sodium and chloride and 2 atoms, and they ionize, they get an electrical charge, and they can go deep into the meat. But sugar is 23 atoms. It's huge. It can get into some of the pores and cracks and crevices, but it can't go more than a 16th or an eighth of an inch below the surface. And think about it. Every time you make pulled pork, that bark is fantastic. It's full of flavor. That's where your rub is. But when you get down into the center of that pulled pork, it's just pulled pork.
Right.
It doesn't even have smoke flavor. The smoke doesn't penetrate. The only thing that can get down there is salt. So I've made a big deal about you apply the salt beforehand, a cup, overnight or a day before, and give it a chance to penetrate. And then, you just can't compete price-wise, because all the rubs on the shelf are full of salt. Some of them are 50% salt, and salt's cheap. So that makes the end product really inexpensive. If you try to come out with a rub that is all herbs and spices and no salt, you'd be by far the most expensive one on the shelf. And no matter what you say on the side label, you can't explain, look at folks, we know it's expensive because it doesn't have salt in it. It's just not going to fly. You can't market that. So I've broken down, and we've put salt in the blends, but we're finessing it. And I know people out there are going to call me phony baloney, but we're finessing it with the fine print. Can you see?
Seasoning and dry rub?
So seasoning and dry brine.
Oh, dry brine. Yes. All right.
Seasoning and dry brine. That's the salt part. It's a dry brine. And I explain on the side label that you want to add it in advance so the salt has a chance to penetrate. So we're trying to finesse the idea that there's salt in there when we've made a big deal about there shouldn't be. But it works. And the blends are good. They're different than the recipes on the website. They have to be. Otherwise, why buy it? And one of the things that's different is most of them are smoked. We have smoked the ingredients. So you've got smoked paprika, you got some smoked garlic, you got smoked pepper, and they have a really nice smoky smell and flavor. And then the sauces. So it's interesting when you do this process, you create a recipe, and I have a recipe for a sauce that uses raspberry jelly. They're not going to put raspberry jelly in a sauce.
Right.
It's too expensive, and they have to buy it from Smuckers or someplace. So you have to reformulate for stuff for ingredients they have, and you've got to communicate with them back and forth. Okay, what ingredients do you have? What smoked ingredients do you have? And then they send you samples. And we've gone through 3 sets of rubs to get to we're waiting for the final set. We think we've nailed it, and sometime this week we should be getting the final set of the rubs, and they should be just what we want, and we can lock it down. But we've gone through 3 or 4 iterations of the rubs to taste. And now, if it was just me, they could just send it to me. But I've got 4 or 5 key people around and Dave Joachim, our editor, is in Pennsylvania. Husky, who runs the Pitmaster clubs in Michigan. Jim, my webmaster, who's got a great palate, is a few hours from me here. Max is also a few hours from me here. And so we have to have them ship samples to us, and we have to have Zoom meetings to discuss, okay, I tried it on a pork chop the other day. And so it's been a really fun process of tasting and fine-tuning. Oh, and Clint, of course, is in on it. Clint Cantwell, he's in Memphis. So it's a Zoom internet collaboration to create these flavor profiles. And we're very close. Now we're working on the sauces, and we're working with the label designer. And with luck, we'll have these 2 sauces, 3 rubs, ready to be distributed on the market in probably late March or early April. And they'll go primarily to barbecue stores and hardware stores, not groceries. One of the things we've learned is that the grocery store market is just hellacious. Getting placement on grocery store shelves, you got a lot of palms to grease. And so I'm just learning a lot, and I'm happy if you want on a regular basis to share what I'm learning in case there's somebody out there who wants to follow in our path. But it's a fascinating, fun, and treacherous process.
Yeah, I think we want to keep on that because at this point you are, in the easiest part, where the part that you have most control. Now is the time where you're going to have to start turning it over and selling it and recouping costs. Well, I mean, what are you in right now from a cost startup?
Very little. The Old World Spices is working on the come right now. We have a contract. So I right now the only outlay I have is to the label designer. And they're not cheap. I'm working with a good artist who is doing what I asked, and I've paid him about $5,000 so far, and we're pretty sure it will cost about $7,000 by the time we're done with the basic label design for all products.
All right, so we'll get another update when we revisit there in February. So sounds like things are going mostly smoothly at the moment. And
so far, so good. Now, there's been a little stumbling block with the sauces, and I'll let you know how that turns out next month.
All right, we'll do that. In the meantime, you can check out Meathead over at AmazingRibs.com and find him on some social media channels as well. And, of course, you find him on the second Tuesday of the month right here on the show. Meathead, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in February.
Greg, always good talking to you, and I'm glad to be in 2021 with you.
No doubt.
And good luck to your Browns and to all of you Centralites.
All right, there he is, Meathead from Amazing Ribs right there on this show. You find him here on the second Tuesday of every month. That's right. So it sounds like the sauces are more or less dialed in. And, I'm sorry, the rubs are more or less dialed in. And then we'll see what happens with the sauces next month. We'll see. All right. Let me talk to you quickly about B&B Charcoal. Also one of the newer sponsors of the show, providing lump charcoal, briquette charcoal, wood pellets. We are probably going to be talking about that next week with Ed Riley. I believe I have him at the 9:35 segment next week, actually. So looking forward to talking with him. Now remember, B&B started out back in the early 60s. I think it was 1962, 1965, somewhere along these lines. They have been owned and operated. I believe they're starting in their third generation. It might be just the second generation of ownership at this point. But they started out as a lump company. Then, realizing that they had the char dust laying around after they had made their lump charcoal, they decided to get into making the briquette product. And then there was actually some fines left over from the briquette process. And then they swooped all those up, put them through an extruding process, and that's how you make your char logs, which I am a huge fan of. So whatever the fuel source, and at this point it's still tough to find everything everywhere. So if you have an Ace store that you are frequenting, make friends with the manager, as I tell you, and then ask about all the stuff that they might have. If they don't have it in store specifically, then tell them to go online. There's a lot of general warehousing access that they should be able to ship in from and get you the stuff that you're looking for. And then, of course, tell everybody that you know about B&B, especially if they have the charcoal cookers or if they have a pellet cooker. That's very popular now. We'll continue to grow into 2021, and we'll talk to Ed about those pellets next week. And again, if you're a consistency and I want to know if I add X amount of briquettes, or X amount of fuel, I'm getting this much heat increase. Briquettes are more your style. If you're a little more fly by the seat of your pants, or you want the high heat, lump should be more your game. And if you want something that gives you that lump access, but then will burn forever, those char logs are going to be something you're definitely going to want to try. I use them to actually supplement my wood splits when I'm running the Lang to keep that coal bed robust. bbcharcoal.com. That's bbcharcoal.com. And we are back to wrap the first hour right after this. Stick around.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rampey.
This segment brought to you by Fireboard 2 and the Fireboard 2 Drive and the Fireboard 2 Pro. The thermocouple version, 6 different temperatures simultaneously, monitoring. You can connect through Wi-Fi, cloud-based monitoring. Fireboard.com, 816-945-2232. That's right. All right, we are getting ready to head to the second hour. Thanks again to Meathead for joining me for the last 2 segments. Looking forward to some monthly updates now from his sauce and rub venture. Again, I was a little skeptical waiting this long to get into it, but it sounds like the lady at Old World Spices has championed Meathead's cause, and they are well on the way March or April for retail. So we'll check it out. I'll step away, refresh libations, and I will see you in about 2 minutes. Stick around. We'll be right back.